this is Debbie Lynn Toomey, Tufts Medical Center's Injury Prevention Coordinator, and you're watching Aging Strong, which is sponsored by the Quincy Health Department. Today, I have a guest speaker. She was on before, and I invited her again because she had such a wealth of knowledge in the arena of hearing loss. So back with me today is Liz Olson from Deaf Inc. Liz, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be back here.
Awesome. So I know you're going to dive deeper into what it's like for people to lose their hearing, right? Because that's a pretty serious stuff. It's one of our five senses, and we take it for granted sometimes until, maybe we have an ear infection, or maybe as we get older, that ear or both ears are starting to kind of lose its power. So, Liz, I can't wait to, for you to do your presentation and share with us, some golden nuggets, like you did last time.
Thank you. Yes. Well, as you said, we're just diving a little bit more into the emotions. So should I go ahead and start presentation? So, again, this is Deaf Inc. My name is Liz Olson, and we are all about access, awareness, and achievement. And again, we're going to be talking about facing the loss and hearing loss. It is there for a reason. Deaf Inc. Who are we? Talked about this before, but we are the only Massachusetts community-based nonprofit, and we are 100% employed by deaf and hard of hearing adults. So talk about the peer aspect. Funded all sorts of different levels of funding. We have offices on the eastern side of Massachusetts, which include Lawrence, Salem, Watertown or Boston area, and New Bedford and Hyannis down in the southern area. We serve multiple populations, including the deaf, deafblind, hard of hearing, and late deaf and deaf adults. And again, just all of our service try to help inspire people to achieve personal, professional goals, to get communication access to programs and services, and trying to building bridges across communities. So, referrals with other agencies. Our core programs are the advocacy resources, education services, is a mouthful. So we call ourselves ARIES for short. Again, it's advocacy, resources, and education services. We have a deaf-blind program, just recently actually going to be changed from community access network to services because it's actually going to get bigger to that combining deaf-blind. We have our ASL educational program with classes for both the larger community and our consumers. Other education and training opportunities, such as budgeting, or we're now teaching English as a second language. So other educational opportunities, and then outreach. Some of the stuff I'm doing, or presentations, or we go to fairs, we set up our tables, and that kind of things. All sorts of core service. And just an idea of what I do, the ARIES program, we will be there to support you, to understand your rights, just make a phone call together, as to let you know how to advocate for yourself and your needs, like skills training, if it's learning English or maybe budgeting a checkbook, anything in that area. Information and referral, like I said, we use area agencies and other companies to help. One like the Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing can help us help you get communication access in legal situations. Peer counseling, like I said, 100% deaf and hard of hearing. We've been there. We have the common experiences. Assistive technology, everybody asks, how do I get help getting hearing aids when they're not funded, or other kind of assistive technology, help in the home to make it safer. And again, the classes and the tutoring options, pathways to citizenships, ASL, budgeting, whatever the need is in the population, we try to create classes. Again, the cost of services, free to our consumers. That includes advocating, going to appointments, having appointments in the offices. They're all free. Purchases of equipment that we help you try to get grant funding or other funding to help you pay for sources. So there are areas, not everything is free, but we try to help you get services if it's purchasing equipment. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about self-identity because it's confusing, especially when we lose our hearing later. But there are lots of different ways to say that we have hearing loss. And we used to say hearing impairment, but we've kind of gotten off of that. But capital D deaf, there's lowercase deaf, there's hard of hearing, there's late deafened, and some people still use the old term hearing impaired. So capital D is a unique culture. You might be born deaf, you're born with no hearing or very little hearing. You may be born with deaf parents. So you're introduced to sign language first, perhaps little or no oral. But the use of sign language is primary, visual languages, and there's no real need to fix. You're born into a culture. Right? So it's a little bit different. Lowercase d or late deafened, it could be a complete loss of hearing. It could be like a profound loss of hearing. So we consider ourselves deaf with no hearing. Occurring later in life, maybe you grew up with some oral ability, speaking first, and then deaf. And then there's hard of hearing. There's anything from minimal loss to profound loss. I'll get to that in the next slide. And none of these are really right. No categorizing, there's no labeling. I just wanted to throw these out there because it is like, how do you identify with hearing loss? We use all sorts of different terms, from capital D deaf, lowercase deaf, hard of hearing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I get into the next. So, and this is also the audiogram on the left shows all the different levels: normal hearing, slight loss, mild, moderate, severe, and profound. So even if we just say hard of hearing, there's a huge range that you can see. But you find out, usually go to your audiologist, your primary care can pair you up with one, and you get the hearing tested, and you hear the word baseball, you hear different pitches of sounds, hear the beeps. And that measures in an audiogram, which is on the right-hand side. So this person, the 250, the lower frequencies are on the left-hand side of this x-axis here, goes up to 8,000, which is the high-pitch frequencies, birds, whistling, and the hearing threshold, the level we heard about decibels, it's kind of confusing, but that's the level, how loud something has to be until you can hear it. So this person can hear pretty okay in the 20s and 30s. It's over here on the pictures is about normal to slight loss in the low tones. The X is the left ear and the red is the right ear. And that's why there are two lines. But anyway, so you're basically testing the pitches until they get high. And I can explain in the next slide. I say high pitches are usually the ones to go first. Some people have complete reversed audiograms, but we tend to lose our high pitches first. So this person has pretty much between 60 and 70. If we go over to this slide, that's mild to moderate loss right there. Another thing to note in the left-hand slide is the banana-shaped yellow part. It doesn't take much hearing to start to lose comprehension of sound, of letters in the English language. F, S, T, H, sh, sh. J, M, B, D, N, ing, and some of the vowels. They're all in that banana boat. So just so noticing that it doesn't take slight loss to mild all the way down to mild, moderate. This colorful chart also tells you how loud does something have to be in that range. It's as loud as a vacuum cleaner. You have moderate loss. So that's one way to test. You understand the level of your loss, and it's all significant. It's all significant. Sorry.
Liz, at what point does somebody, just going back to the previous slide, that has the image of the hearing loss ranges, at what point do people, do you think, start seeking professional help and also to start getting hearing aids? Does it depend on the person, or does it pretty much, do they kind of fall in the severe range? Is that when they start seeking assistance as far as hearing aids?
Well, that's a good question. And it depends if you're the insight of an audiologist, what might help at this point. But today I'm also going to talk a little bit more about why we don't get help and other reasons why we don't get help. I would know if you have slight loss, you might start thinking that you're not hearing people as best you can in conversations. You're missing out on some of those consonants and vowels. But it's really up to the person. There's a very large range of hearing aids and technology. Maybe you just need headphones to listen to the TV to make it more comfortable and less uncomfortable for your neighbors or your spouse. It's a good question. So, how else would you know that you have hearing loss if you don't go to the audiologist? Do you feel extra tired? Withdrawn, frustrated if you feel out of the conversation, right? Some of those words aren't coming as best you can. So getting frustrated, you don't want to go out anymore. Maybe you're saddened because you can't hear your grandchildren. Like I said, high-pitched noise are common to go first, and little kids have high-pitched sounds, voices. So these are all common responses when you have hearing loss. You start to withdraw, start to get frustrated. So tending to some of those emotional reactions might also be why you might want to see an audiologist or seek help. You're not alone. Over 50 million Americans have hearing loss. And in Massachusetts, that population is over 983. Just in Massachusetts. And those are just the people who say they are. Those people don't. And nearly 33% of adults 70 years and older have hearing loss that impact communication. So if you're ever thinking, this is not just me, it's not just you, a lot of us. So when we get to the loss and hearing loss, because it is something that comes after. So you could be younger, you could be a child, but you grew up maybe speaking in an oral world, or maybe you're older adults and now you're in your 70s, you've had your whole life of hearing, and suddenly you're losing it. You're losing something that you've had for a long time. So I know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she's a social worker, and she writes a lot about death and dying. And when I go in there, but I saw a lot of parallels between her idea of grief and her idea of loss. We did lose something. So whether we didn't lose a physical person, we lost our hearing. So, and my own personal experience kind of went through these stages. So there's denial, there's bargaining, anger, depression, and finally acceptance. And this is not a linear path. These are stages. So just remember, we can go back and forth. We can have more than one. We can get to acceptance and go back to anger. So I'm just going to dip a little bit into that with parallels of losing hearing. So first we have denial. Another reason why we might not see an audiologist to do something. I can hear okay most of the time. Right? So we tell ourselves, I'm doing okay, right? I'm just going to avoid those restaurants, right? Well, often I'm left out a lot more than I used to be, right? Or other people mumble. People aren't talking clearly, right? Well, that's not the other people, it's my hearing. Could be the reality. But what do we say in denial? We blame it on other people. Or we blame the restaurant. We blame the location, the places that we go, right? I'm just not going to go to the restaurant. I'm not going to go out to eat with my friends anymore. But the reality is, it's like most places, I can't hear. Life isn't fun anymore. I'm just going to sit at home. So there's a lot of denial. As we admit. Bargaining. So it's kind of like trying to get control of the situation again. If I only hadn't gone to those concerts as a kid, if only I'd gotten my ears checked earlier, if the if and onlys. Or is it sometimes it's the regret and the guilt that we feel around the situation? I put anger and depression together and hearing loss. Take the emotional response, right? Get angry. Why me? Like, you need to deserve this, or angry at the situation or people. Maybe at your doctor for not telling you sooner. I don't know. Maybe you're angry at your grandparents for having hearing loss and passing it down because it is genetic hearing loss. But maybe you're just feeling depressed. You feel left out, right? We feel isolated. And you're just feeling down in the dumps because it's just not like things aren't the same anymore. What happened? Um, I'm gonna add a whole lot of other opening this big balloon of emotions related to hearing loss. It's not necessarily Kruger-Ross stage, but opening the emotions. Sometimes when we have hearing loss, we feel shame, right? There's shame and there's stigma from the broader community that if I'm hearing loss, if I'm deaf, that means I'm dumb and I'm not intelligent. People will see me as less intelligent. People see me as rude or inconsiderate, right? Somebody asks you, oh, this happened to me. We had a new manager boss come in, and for some reason she missed the fact that I was hearing impaired, and she would come in and say good morning. And I didn't hear anything. So later, after time went on, she reported to another coworker, this is rude. She called me rude. She didn't understand that I couldn't hear her. So there's a lot of that. Like again, we just love less value. We don't have something else. I think that's part of why some people, when I was talking about identification and hearing impaired, we didn't want to look inferior. Impaired made us look like we were missing something or something broken, something's wrong. So impaired, but impaired still seems like it goes together, the stigma of having hearing loss. And of course, being at fault for something you don't have, right? I don't know, but people apologize for your behavior when you were just not hearing. I mean, it might look socially wrong. Anyways, other emotions, being sad, right? Having fear. What am I going to do? How are people going to judge me? Being deceptive, I guess a little bit getting into the denial, continuing that denial, right? How long can I lie that I heard everything fine, that everything is fine? And again, isolation, that goes with that depression, not being out in the community as we used to because we've lost our hearing. So, finally, we get to the last stage of Kubler-Ross, or maybe not a linear last stage, but we can find some level of acceptance. And that can mean a whole lot of different things for different people. One is like self-identifying with your hearing loss. Whether, okay, now I'm gonna say to people, I'm hard of hearing. Some people say, I don't hear you very well. Can you please, speak up? So if you're getting help, how self-identifying. It doesn't matter if you say you're deaf or you're hard of hearing or you're late deafened. Somehow you come to acceptance that your hearing isn't 100%. Getting help or support. That can be harder than it seems because what does it look like? So my friends also often asked me, how can I help you? And I said, I have no idea. So I had to learn what is helpful in this situation. What can I ask for? How do I ask for? I can ask the restaurant to turn the music down. Ask the restaurant for a corner seat. Little things that you do actually have the right to do. Telling other people, being honest. The last 5 book groups, I had no clue what was going on. No more lying, no more saying I'm fine. Maybe that's where you need to go. Understanding your needs, again, it kind of looks like getting help. What does that help look like? What do you need in a situation? Do you need captions on your TV? Do you need somebody to face you and slow down? Do you need your doctors to take the masks off or use some kind of technology? I mean, there's a whole lot there. Just it could be different from everybody, right? You need a hearing aid? No, I don't want a hearing aid. I want a pocket tucker or I want something different. We could go on forever for that. But and then just learning how to advocate for yourself, some kind of level of acceptance. And I know for me, when I went from hard of hearing to deaf, I got my cochlear implant. Technically, inside, my ear was deaf. But outside, I'm oral and I'm speaking and I'm hearing you because I have an assisted listening device in my ear. So how do I identify? That was very hard. So we have to take those steps to process. How am I going to identify myself now? Maybe you just say, I have a little bit of hearing loss and I need help. So, and again, you can go back and forth. You can still be angry. You can have days when you just want to cry or punch a pillow. Why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to advocate anyway? People should just, give me the services I need. I can be frustrated. So it's not like once you learn how to accept your hearing that it's done. Because I've gone through many levels of hearing loss. I don't want to scare anybody, but we all have changes in life, and so anyways, you have the rights to feel depressed, sad, anger, and consider it to be acceptance for yourself. So, any questions before I go on to the solutions about the 5 stages?
No, well, it was just what came to mind yesterday. I was actually with my mother who has relies on hearing aids because she was hard of hearing a long time ago, but then she needed cancer treatment, which made her become more well, I shouldn't say hearing impaired, right? You're correcting that. So it really took a toll on her hearing. And so we had an ENT appointment yesterday, and she had to remove her hearing aid. And it was just, it made me just realize how it was so hard for the audiologist to communicate with her. But luckily, I was able to attend one of your in-person presentations. And I think you'll mention it later on in the slide, but there is a way to have somebody's voice be transcribed on the phone. So that's what I was using to help her with directions. But it's just very interesting. Everything that you've shared I would kind of flash back to my dad, who was hard of hearing, and also my mom, who has been hard of hearing.
Mhm.
It's just it just gives me more of an appreciation for people who are undergoing that type of journey.
Yes, yeah. And I said there's lots of assistive technology now. And even in as deaf people are allowed or have the right to an interpreter in a medical setting, we have the right to ask for CART, which is a real-time captioning app. When we go to the hospitals, they are supposed to provide those by law.
Mhm.
Luckily, when that doesn't happen, we can use our own, or we can use those in personal settings as well, like real-time apps. A part of the solutions coming up. What do we do about it? We get the emotions, like talk about it, vent it, see a therapist, but other solutions. Okay,
Mhm.
you're all supposed to laugh now. We're gonna assign everybody a horn and hope you hear better. We can be thankful that we are in this day in more modern technology than. So again, we do talk about hearing aids. We're not gonna let them go. You can get hearing aids. You can get hearing aids for mild loss. Or what point somebody might pick something that's going to give them a little more amplification. Over-the-counter aids now make it a little more affordable to try something that's going to give you just a little bit of amplification. Um, and the newer aids talk about being old. We've gone from analog to digital. Don't ask me to explain it. But now our hearing aids are computers. This is like advanced technology. So they're much better at programming for our needs, right? They look at that audiogram. They're not going to boost the low pitches if you want high pitches, or the other way around, right? They're trying to make the levels of sound comfortable for us. So a lot has come forward with hearing aids as well as cochlear implants in terms of programming that little computer that's in our ear. Um, I've used the term assisted listening devices 100 times. I haven't told you anything about them, but little microphones, personal microphones. There's a very large, uh, there's a large genre in terms of assisted listening, from portable, what we call loop systems. We got into apps for captioning and transcription. Um, FM systems, loops are a little bit different from the devices. It's mostly microphone. Oops. Oh, I got rid of it. So anyway, we go into it. We have large, you can't see it because I am blurred, but this is just a small example. And it's a huge poster of all the different apps, both on Apple phones and Android phones, to help captioning, written transcription, making things bigger, looking up lyrics to music, that kind of. I don't have much to say, but that's one of the biggest services that we offer you. We will share more if you become a consumer. One thing you can take away right now, talking about strategies of communication. It's not an actual device that you have to buy anything for, but just learn how to advocate for better communication. Asking somebody to speak directly to you. Often if we go with somebody or a spouse, you find the doctor is going to talk to the person who can hear. Hey, I'm the patient over here. And that's important. Whether or not you want your partner to hear, you're still the patient. I think that's important. So somebody talk directly to you. Besides the fact that we talk directly to you, you can see their face and their lips reading, moving, and you can understand better. So clearly and slowly, people tend to talk really fast and we have no idea what they said. I probably didn't understand what I said. Slowly and clearly, and pronunciation is very important. And people forget we are on a time or nothing basis. People think they have to say everything in 30 seconds, especially marketers. Anyways, we do have to ask people not to cover their mouth. Whatever happened, what happened during COVID? We all went deaf. We lost the ability to use other body language, lip reading. We do it whether or not we know we do it. And so it was very difficult. It's just a big tip, a big skill to have be taken away. So please don't cover your mouth, especially when they use a microphone. It doesn't help to hold the microphone here. I hope I have the microphones and masks. Please don't raise your voice. I got the amplification, right? You shouting at me doesn't make anything clearer or easier to hear. And again, the other body language, not just reading the lips, but hey, I'm talking to you. I'm really happy today. Aren't we great to go out today? Hi, I'm here to talk to you about how wonderful hearing loss is. You get the message, right? Right? Okay, so all the things that you can do for yourself, always have pen and paper ready, right? Be enthusiastic, show that you want to hear the person. I really want to hear what you're saying, but I can't. Can you write it down? Or ask to rephrase something, use different words instead of saying, what? I didn't hear you, what? Because you're hearing something. So try to tone in on what the word that you're missing was. What did you say about that brown fox on the fence? Or, making it more clear or rephrasing. So I went to the fast food restaurant. I ordered a hamburger and french fries and a soda. And I thought it was all finished. I did my homework. I was all ready just to get my order in. And he asked me a question. And he's not asking for my money. What the world is he asking? Do I want something? So I already told you what I want. So he saw my confusion. He saw me looking around. He saw me like completely lost, thank goodness. Because he was asking if I wanted cheese on my hamburger. Now you're thinking like America, you order a cheeseburger if you want a cheeseburger and a hamburger if you don't. But apparently he said it was the rules that they have to ask, do you want cheese? So cheese, there's nothing, a cheese. They all look the same, they all hear the same. He figured it out. He asked me, do you want American or Swiss? And I got, oh, thank you. You changed the word. So sometimes now I use that back. Just, can you use a different word to clarify the what? Not drive somebody crazy. That's what my mother says. You can hear me just fine because you're answering me. Stop telling me I can't hear you. Because I can't understand you. Anyway, and again, the speech to text apps, most of those I'm with, I give you a clue. Otter is one and AVA is another. But if you come and meet with us, we'll give you some secrets. No, they're not really secrets. We love to share our information. Then people might look at you like, are you recording my conversation? He says, so hold up a microphone and you want to hear better to your earbuds. And they're like, you're recording me. No, I'm just listening. So other things we can do, right? Talking about the loss and hearing loss, check back, cope with your emotions. Please vent your anger. Be aware of your feelings, the disappointment, the frustration. Be honest. Stop lying, right? You're going to forget what you lied about in 3 weeks ago anyway, so might as well be honest. Learn about your needs in relation to the loss, right? I know as a kid, we always had to sit in the front of the classroom asking for help. Do you have technology that I can use? I'm sorry I don't have like another whole presentation on AT, and I left all of it out today. There are loop systems that work with our processors. It's called a T-coil switch. Some libraries or churches might have a loop. So you have to ask them as I turn on my, they have to use a microphone and you can use your hearing aid. Sometimes it's a portable device or something that you wear. Um, and all of those systems can help you. I know if you get a hearing aid, you get more, you understand the things that pair with your hearing aid. Personal microphone systems. I had to use my personal microphone systems as jury duty because. So, anyways, learning about all of these things. Um, and the biggest thing is connecting with other people, right? Learning that we are not alone. We can gab all we want about our experiences, what works, what doesn't work, what are our favorite devices, what do we not have, what are our biggest challenges, in terms of, maybe like healthcare or feeling, heard, things like that. So lots of small groups. We have a hard of hearing, late deafened committee at Deaf Inc. here. We're trying to get people together for social experiences, sharing experiences, book groups. There are book groups for people with hearing loss. There is HLAA is the Hearing Loss Association of America, and they have chapters. There are two in Massachusetts, but there's the main chapters or state chapters, but there's a national branch. They have a lot of information and social groups, as well as ALDA, which is Association of Late Deafened Adults. So no, you don't have to identify as a late deafened adults because we're more inclusive than the name provides. But get in touch with other groups that have those social experiences that we can share our stories, share our challenges, and we learn from each other. And that's the biggest thing about peer support. That's just true on Facebook too. You can find people. But these are all the other resources, like I just mentioned a bunch of them. And sometimes the names are a little confusing, like our own name, Deaf Inc., does not mean deaf. It was stood for Development Education Assessment of Functioning. Something very strange. So even my own company name does not mean just deaf. We serve hard of hearing and everybody in between. Questions or questions that might come up?
Oh, yes, definitely. Uh, you mentioned that it's the right of the individual to have an interpreter when they go to events. Actually, I was at an event last week, and it was the 2025 annual suicide conference, and I saw an interpreter there, and I was very impressed because I thought the interpreter was there for the whole group. But as it turned out during the day when we broke out in different workshop sessions, it seemed that there were two interpreters for one person. So those two were taking turns. And it was really great to see that accommodation because it made me realize how first of all, it's important for everybody to learn about suicide prevention and but for that accommodation, two interpreters for one person who needed the hearing help was I was very impressed by that. So
Yeah.
um, that
Well, yeah, I think also interpreters go by time, so
ah
they switch throughout the day. I mean, you don't want one person interpreting for 24 hours or, even for like 8 hours. So they take time, maybe every 20 minutes to switch. So that's why there would be two. Sometimes also, if there were the two of us, there would be an interpreting my voice, and the other person would take interpreting your voice. So it's not confusing, so they represent the person.
oh, wonderful. Who pays for that? Is it the individual or is it the event itself?
No, by law, it is supposed to be the vendor, the event, the hospital. Um, Sometimes that's where we get into sticky situations.
That's good.
But,
That's very good.
yeah. A
That's
lot of
very,
referrals for interpretation and as well as for CART, which is real-time captioning, um, go through the Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing.
okay. All right. I'm gonna have you, is there another slide after this, just so that people we can kind of converse a little bit?
No, just how to get in touch with us.
Yeah. So this is more information to get more information on resources and to subscribe to the emails. That's great. So this topic about the emotional aspect of hearing loss is just sort of so important, so important, and especially as a nurse, it's so as a nurse we're always teaching our patients, right? Trying to make sure that they understand so that way when they leave and they go home, they're able to do what's best for their health. Um, and I remember from time to time, I would have somebody who would, doesn't speak the language or does not is not able to read. And also there'd be times when people are not able to hear. And it's just so important for that connection, just in order for the person to feel whole and complete. Um, but I was just thinking about a while back when my father was alive and he was losing his hearing. And I would say, Dad, you need to get your hearing checked. And after a while, he's like, he got he got mad at me because he said, "You're the only one. You're the only one who's complaining about my hearing." But he wasn't at a point yet to, he was, I guess, in denial or maybe a little bit of frustration. But it took him a while to be able to come to terms with, oh, I think I might need something to help me hear.
It's
But
usually your friends who are going to notice it before you, but
yeah. And also, um, as far as the emotions go, I love how you attach the Kubler-Ross grief and loss because that can be applied to so many different types of losses, right? Her
yeah.
her philosophy, but acceptance is big. Acceptance is big.
Yeah, I mean, what level of acceptance it differs for everybody too. Even that is a large part of it. But right. I mean, even if when I was growing up, hard of hearing, I had two hearing aids, and I thought I'm great for hearing aids. I wanted nothing to do with cochlear implants. At least I knew what they were, because by the time I needed them, I knew what they were. Right.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we can be in denial of needing something and then need it later in life.
Mhm. Can you?
But the accepting it when you need it, when you're
Yeah, I
ready
mean,
for it.
definitely. When you're in a level of acceptance, then you're able to advocate for yourself. That's basically what you shared with us. Then you could start saying, telling people, "Can you speak up? I can't hear you." Which, I have seen and heard also with my mom who wears bilateral hearing aids. When she sees a new, like maybe physical therapist, the first thing she would tell them, I wear hearing aids, you'll have to speak up, or I need to see your face. So she self advocates.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
very, very important. But also, you mentioned also you had a coworker who said good morning to you. You did not hear that person. And then you were perceived as somebody who was rude, So, it's
Yes.
very, very important. I've seen that also, play out in real life, waiting, somebody, people waiting in line to pay for their groceries. Somebody is hard of hearing and didn't realize that somebody was saying, okay, you can go ahead, and people behind that person being impatient, thinking, okay,
Yeah.
where are they? What's going on with that person? Yeah.
Yeah. Good examples. Yeah.
Yeah. What are other when you do your in-person workshops, what other emotions do you tend to see in participants? What are some common ones that you kind of, help them not work through, but that you have seen in some of these people? in situations?
I don't know. I just remember the last one. I saw a lot of frustration. Um, just like, I mean, we're dealing with technology because I laugh because we're wearing computers, and as much as technology advances, we have to advance and learn and understand. And if it works, it's wonderful. If it doesn't work, we're lost, right? Technology, like we get a blackout, you can't get to your computer. What are you gonna do, right? If the battery dies, you don't have batteries. What am I gonna do? And so there's a lot of frustration, or a lot of I know in the medical, I mean, like not everybody's equal, and it's like this hearing aid or that hearing aid, or this audiologist does this, or this audiologist does not do. So it can be complicated. I think it gets to a level of frustrating how much we have to self-advocate. When are you going to understand? I tell you I'm hearing impaired. Why can't you figure it out?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's great. It's like how they self-identify without saying, without having being labeled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't want to self-identify completely by our hearing loss, but it's helpful to tell somebody because otherwise they're not going to get it. So there's a balance. There's balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely a big balance. Now I know we're talking about more the emotional aspects of hearing loss, but you've mentioned that you have a cochlear implant. For those people who are not too, they don't know too much about cochlear implants, can you just kind of share with us the difference between that and a hearing aid, even though they both provide a way for the person using it
Absolutely.
to hear?
Well, I had one slide that had a picture, but I didn't explain it. So the cochlear implant, basically my life is the hearing aid doesn't help anymore. It's not powerful enough to provide any hearing. I actually was completely deaf in both ears when I got a CI. What the CI does is an implant is the processor in your head, but what is a very, very long electron wire, for lack of better biological words. On that has electrodes based on programmed by frequency. So the high pitches on the end and the low pitches go all the way into what the cochlea is, a tiny little piece of the inner ear. So it bypasses all of the outer ear and the middle ear into the cochlea. And I thought I had that slide, but the cochlea has the hair cells, and they're the ones responsible to pick up the frequencies of the sound coming in, the sound waves. And they connect to the nerves, which give messages to the brain. And the brain figures out what the sound is. So it's very complex, but like every part of our body, they tend to break down. They can be broken by autotoxic medications and things. So they break down, and then the sound isn't coming to the brain because there's no communication. So what the cochlear implant does with that, the part that's implanted is a man-made wire of electrodes that replace the hair cells. Like, this hair cell picks up a low sound, this hair cell picks up the high sounds, this hair cells, lots and lots and lots of them, but there are only so many in the cochlear implant. So it feeds into the cochlea, and then the sound from the processor does what your normal ear would have done, just send the waves, sound waves in, and you regenerate this connections between that man-made electrode and the nerves to send messages to the brain.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated. It's bionic power. We call it to be a bionic ears. but it's really amazing. And the first time I did have to reteach my brain how to understand those new nerve responses.
And you mentioned you have bilateral hearing loss. Does that mean you have an implant on both sides or just
Correct.
one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have two implants and there's pre-processors to both ears.
Oh, okay. And the care of that is it pretty simple? Or do you just kind of is there an attachment to outside and you just take it off, or is there do you leave everything on? Is everything
No, it's just like a hearing aid. The only difference is it doesn't go in here, it doesn't go into my ear, it just goes magnet on my head. So the magnet is with the connector piece versus like the ear mold that would be at the end of your hearing aid. So the processors are the same in a hearing aid and a CI. The processor part is pretty much the same. Just the
oh,
body part.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Part
And
that you
that needs to be
program.
does that need to be charged as well, just like a hearing aid?
Yes, when need charges, and when the charges break, you need the other same old non-chargeable beer batteries. Oh. Complicated, yeah. Every time it's like same thing. The batteries. Just so you know, you do have to have a significant level of hearing loss and a certain percentage of clarity gone. They've kind of raised that percentage. They've gone up and down in terms of eligibility, so to speak, requirements for having a cochlear implant. And you do lose all of your residual hearing. So if you even have a minimal amount of hearing, some people like to keep that for as long as they can
Hmm.
because it's literally going to wipe out whatever's
Oh, yeah.
still
Right.
there. Yeah.
And that's covered by insurance when you have to have that procedure done?
Fortunately, yes. Once you're deaf, you can get it for free. The world makes no sense, right?
Mhm, 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 mhm. So, is what else? What else as far as emotional losses do you find? Do you find younger people are able to accept and move on as far as, accepting their hearing loss and then being able to just kind of adapt? What groups of people tend to have a
That's a
harder time
That's
accepting?
a good question. I mean, I think it's like kids are just kind of more resilient and accepting what we have, what they have. And I think if you lose, well, as an older adult and you're losing your hearing, it's all you have. And a lot of people are saying, oh, so you're deaf now or you're hard of hearing, go learn sign language. It's like my reaction to that would be, okay, you go learn Japanese at age 75.
Mhm,
Even at age 50, like forget about it. It's extremely hard to learn a brand new language. It is a language. Now you
mhm,
might be able to do charades or something like visual gestural kind of communication, but that's like it's a perception that people have that's not correct. Um, so, I mean, what else? We have a lot more though to cope with it, to deal with it, to just, understand like I'm feeling depressed. That's okay. You have a reason to feel isolated, you have a reason to feel anger, and deal with be it. We're not telling you to fix it, it's just gonna be it.
mhm.
And understand that that might go with your hearing loss or
Yeah,
vision loss or both at the same time,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
we have to deal with our aging bodies and our changes in life and the
Mhm.
emotional aspect just as much as trying to fix something that's not really fixable.
I love how you said, you know, if people tends to, have a simple answer. Well, you can't hear, learn sign language, right? So, I have three boys. My youngest takes an American Sign Language class, and he's really been loving it. And actually, they're pushing for more advanced classes. And I was on Facebook a few weeks ago, and there was one person that was sharing different sign languages. So I was excited to show him what I learned. I said, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
chair
Well,
or
it
this is."
certainly helps. It's like, for us, it might be like lip reading. If I can learn a little bit of basics, finger spelling, or basic words. It's super helpful. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that, but it is a language in a sense of
it is. It is.
we might be doing what's called signed exact English is not sign language, it's not ASL. So
Yeah.
you just have to be careful about how we word it. But yeah, I think if it's helpful, I think little kids are learning it, before development of oral speech is it's
Yeah.
great to have another language.
Well, definitely. I mean, like you said, it's just the American Sign Language. So the person that I was watching on the video actually was demonstrating British Sign Language. So when I was showing my son who was learning American Sign Language what I learned, he said, that doesn't seem familiar, Mom." That might be a different country's sign
Mhm.
language. So, for all of us who are not to we think that American Sign Language is basically global. Every country has their own sign language, which makes actually perfect sense.
Yes, yes. That's just we assume English is in every country.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go there.
It's just very fascinating, very fascinating. So, we're almost at the top of the hour. What are two or three things you want people to come away with, based on what you shared with us today? Because, what you shared is just amazing, how much people have to, work through within themselves to be able to cope and rise above.
Peer support, that you're not alone. Finding other people with hearing loss. We call it, I think we call it HOPE in HLAA, hearing our personal experiences, because we have shared experiences, and one person can learn from what you do, and you can learn from what somebody else does. Um, oh, being the emotion, like knowing that it is okay to feel those feelings and that they might be related. Um, and I guess the third, yeah, it's okay. Well, I guess I'm just advocating. It's a pain in the butt, but it's also a great thing at the same time. Me learning as taking the experience to teach people, just amazing what we don't know, shifting those stigmas. Right? We're not stupid. We're completely intelligent. The only thing we can't do is hear.
Mhm. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Your presentation was, and what you had to share with us was very valuable. And I hope and I know that a lot of people will really gain from what you had to share with us today. And, just making it okay to, you know, not be okay, right? And to feel the feelings that you said.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you
Feel
so
the
much,
feelings.
Liz, from Deaf Inc. I appreciate you coming back today. I'd love to have you back again. And I also want to thank the Quincy Health Department for continuing to sponsor Aging Strong. Until next time, everybody, be well. Take care. Bye bye.